All right, we are live on air, live stream Pixel Fondue Roundtable, a March edition. We have Yazan and Pascal and Ed and Adam and I think Wes McDermott, new Pixel Fondue contributor, also from Algorithmic. Is it algorithmic or algorithmic? It's kind of spelled algorithmic.
I think it's algorithmic.
It's not an algorithm, is it? It's an algorithm. All right.
Yeah, are they going for allegory? Is that what that's about? I don't even know what the...
I always thought algorithm. Anyway, hopefully Wes will show up here in a bit. First things first, we're going to talk a little bit about the survey results from the first Pixel Fondue newsletter. So thanks a lot for sending those in. That gives us some direction. I think that was really useful. And then we'll talk about any other sort of odds and ends we have. I do want to talk a little bit about Autodesk subscription today, even though, we're primarily Modo users here, but a lot of people I have a Maya license or a Creative Suite license as well. I'm sure a lot of us watching do as well. And I think it's relevant to the larger picture because Autodesk is our industry leader. They sort of set the table for everybody else. So we'll see where that goes. First off, I want to introduce Pascal Norquet.
No. No K. No K. It's like N-O, like no K. Just
no K. Like okay, but no K.
Yeah, no.
That's like
Pascal?
okay, but no K.
Just say Pascal.
Okay, like okay. All right, just say Pascal. We'll just go with Pascal. Live from New York, we've got Pascal. So Pascal contacted me, I think over email. Is that how you contacted me? I think he reached out to me and wanted to be a contributor, and he actually put together a couple of sample videos that were great. And we're like, I was thinking at the time that okay, we've got a bunch of Modo stuff, and William Bond puts up a new Modo thing every day. And so why don't we branch out into some pipeline software, and Pascal knows a lot of this stuff, After Effects as well, but especially Marvelous Designer, I've always been fascinated with, but I don't have it. I don't know how to use it, but it seems like a fascinating program. Pascal had some knowledge in there, and he started putting out Marvelous Designer videos, which have been some of the most watched videos on Pixel Fondue. So Pascal, you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your history and how you got into this stuff, this business?
Sure. Well, I went to art school, started out as a storyboard artist, and then I became an art director in an ad agency in Paris. Then I moved to the States, and I was in advertising there for a while, like in Chicago first, and then in LA. Did some directing there also, shot some commercials, and then we moved back to, I got married there, so we moved back to Paris. And when I went back to advertising for a while, and then left again to become a freelancer, I went back to storyboarding. And then through storyboarding, I got interested in 3D, first through Poser, because I saw a demo of it at some show. I think it was the last Mac Expo in Paris. And I thought it was a cool tool to help me storyboard. Then I really got into 3D, and then someone introduced me to Modo. It was 302 at the time. And I got it, and I really got into 3D. So I became actually an illustrator. I did a lot of 3D illustrations. And then the past 5 years, I got more and more into animation, 3D animation, and also I sort of co-created an animatic studio called Gling Glang in Paris. It's like a small boutique thing where we do a lot of previs things, animatics for other agencies. And that's when I really got into After Effects. And I really love After Effects. It's just my favorite softwares are After Effects, Modo, and Marvelous Designer. And
how long have you been using Marvelous?
But I started using it right at the beginning, actually from a tweet from Yazan when they just came out. And when they came out, they didn't have, I think they were just trying to get some designers, some real designers. They didn't have any idea what they had in their hands. So I got the first license for like $90, I think.
Hey, Yazan, you worked with them early, correct? I mean, were they're professional as their professional software, right? And they tried to do something.
As far as I recall, this has been a while, but I recall, I think they tried initially with Marvelous to go after the design market, and they were having troubles. I think the industry at that point was just not ready for digital simulation of fabric. The fashion industry still is, in my opinion, very at the starting point of that, if even there. But they started getting a lot of traction with like people like Pascal who have more of the entertainment / games world. I think the game, especially the game design industry, really liked them for the character attire and things like that, and that's where they took off unexpectedly. I think after that, not 100% sure, but I think that's when they split the whole model designer, kind of geared towards entertainment and games folk, and then Clo 3D, which is similar to Marvelous Designer. I think it's about one step, like one generation ahead of it, and it supports patterns, so more of the design aspect of things. And I think that's how it happened.
Super impressive stuff. I mean, I've been blown away by it. And even for me, coming from the design world, there's never been a 3D tool for that kind of stuff. And when I first saw Marvelous, I didn't see when they first started trying to market it to designers. When I saw Marvelous, I was like, wow, games people get all the cool stuff. Why can't we have this stuff in design? Because I could have used this so many times years ago. But I guess it just shows that it goes both ways. I mean, but now when I've seen it used, even in design, it's unbelievable the things you can do in terms of, like, it's one thing to design patterns in sort of free space, but what they let you do is really design around an object, which is pretty unbelievable. So if you're making dog sweaters, then that's like the premier software for designing dog sweaters.
It is the only, I think.
It's the only one out there, as it turns out.
No, I agree with you, and I think just testament to kind of how solid it is. Obviously, software is software. There's always going to be some crashing or something unexpected happening. But just recently, we just wrapped up a project using Clo, and we needed additional hands on deck at the company. And I have Renata, who's actually from an architectural background, and she uses more of the Keyshot application for us, so she does some of the rendering. And we needed her to kind of jump on board just to do some layouts of the patterns. We thought somebody could just prep the files. I thought, hey, could you take a look at the software, see if you can get up to speed, and see if we just need somebody to put patterns in the right placement before we start the simulation. Over the weekend, she was doing the initial simulations for us. Like, it was just ridiculous. I mean, I'm not saying that she's a very bright person, but the fact that you're able to do that within a weekend speaks a lot to the software, I think. Which, I mean, somebody spent a good amount of time working out a lot of the kinks for the user to be able to do that within that timeline.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting story that it took off in games, and that's a good lesson. Like, don't overlook the games people. It probably only took a dozen or so indie designers or whatever to look at the software and say, holy crap, I could use this, put out some cool art. I mean, that's how ZBrush got going, right?
Yeah.
You started to see art pop up that you'd never seen before. And you're like, what program?
Well, they solved a very difficult problem, right? Fabric simulation and fabric modeling. I mean, I don't know if you recall, but I used to see some, like, back in the day, like Lightwave modelers and 3D Max modelers modeling fabric to an insanity level.
Crazy.
And you had to understand how fabric behaves, how different fabric behaves, how the model behaves, how the movement is affecting your fabric. And for that, you must have had like just a very interesting unicorn of a person for them to be able to do all of that in a modeling package. And I think when the games people are doing concept design for the characters and what they're wearing, and not only what they're wearing, but sometimes you're doing multiple variations of those. Having to model that in 3D is just like even sculpting it isn't really that fun. I think when Marvelous came out, it just solved a fundamental problem. It's like, hey, I can really solve a very big problem for us and iterate through it very, very quickly. And I think that's I don't know if you ever have seen how to use Marvel Designer, but one of the best tools in it and the most intuitive thing is after you simulate something, just like you would if you were doing a photo shoot, you could go into the garment and literally pin it out and stretch it out and kind of make it go into the placement and the folds the way you want to, which in my opinion is probably one of the best tools of that package.
Hey, Greg, are they paying us to do this? If not, why not?
I think we might need a sponsor.
I'm getting 5 licenses. I think everyone here, you get a license, you get a license, you get a license.
Right.
Nobody's getting a
Jocelyn
license.
is the Oprah Winfrey of
right.
3D
Look under your seat,
software.
guys.
Yeah.
Well, the license is like the permanent license is like $600, so it's really affordable. I mean,
Yeah, for some, and it is literally, as far as I know, it's one of the only things in the 3D world that is totally unique. I don't think there's anyone else doing anything even remotely close to it. Is that true, or is there some? I mean, there's vStitcher, right? I guess
so there are three, in my opinion. There's three that really shine, which is Clo and Marvelous Designer as the company, vStitcher, and then there's Optitex. And in my opinion, each one serves a different audience. I think Marvelous Designer Clo has a very different. It's a much more friendly UI and user experience. I think things look great out of the box. They just look good. I think Optitex is on the other side of it. It's a lot more technical. You could dial in a lot more settings, I think, and you could get more realistic simulation patterns, but it takes a technical person to get there. And I think vStitcher sits in between those. I've talked to a lot of design companies, and what I've seen is that with Marvelous, you can have the designers using it. With Optitex, you have a dedicated tool of a dedicated pool of technicians that operate it. And
which can be a perfectly valid way of working, by the way. I don't mean to denigrate that as a
no. It's not. Like I said, it's a different audience. Some companies are set up to have a dedicated resource for just that thing, and I think if that, if they're pumping out what they need and they're making it work,
yeah. And to be honest, actually, I've been a proponent of that. I actually usually say that at a company when I'm designing something. I generally propose that the person doing the designing should not be the one doing the CAD. You should always, even if it's a designer doing the CAD, you should trade off and do the CAD for each other's designs, because otherwise you sort of end up designing whatever's easiest to model. And and I think that's a big problem. So for something like that, for like doing your simulation or whatever, I wouldn't want my fashion designers bogged down in software. I
wouldn't either. But like I said, I think. I feel Marvelous Designer is a bit closer to not having to worry about it. Like I said, things look good out of the box. I think when you go and you want, that's the difference, right? You model something, you're like, oh, that looks really good. And somebody looks at it and says, well, that's not really how that fabric behaves in real life if you really truly modeled it with this specific pattern. And you're like, I don't care. This is what I think looks good as a designer.
Yeah.
But then if you really wanted to do it, then you would get somebody more technical.
So let me jump in, because we're going to get back to Marvelous and some of the other software packages on our survey. But I just saw Wes McDermott jumped in, so we're going to jump to Wes in a second. So Pascal, anything else you want to tell the Pixel Fonduers audience about you?
I just moved to New York about a few months ago, and I'm still freelancer right now, looking into getting a job maybe in something more stable in a production company here, but so far I'm still working with my French clients also. So
all right. So if you are working in New York and you're watching this, Pascal is looking for a job. So you're on the Upper West Side. There's a lot of production company. I used to intern actually at a company on the Upper West Side there.
Really?
I think it was West Side, maybe the East Side actually. I think Curious Pictures and there's some big ones up there.
Really?
Yeah. So contact Pascal. I think you can get to him through Pixel Fondue. Also, interesting life. You've lived in a lot of places. I think you've been all around America and in Europe. So are you French originally?
I'm French, yeah.
You are French, okay. I have a good friend who's working in France. I used to work with him out here in Silicon Valley. He was a smoke artist. Remember Smoke, Flame, and Inferno and all that? They actually still use it a little bit for color grading, but he's working over in France right now.
A lot of good VFX companies in France now. Allegorithmic is French. And
yeah, that's right. That's right. There we go. All right. Good segue. All right. So Wes McDermott. So new Pixel chef, Wes McDermott. So Wes, I actually reached out to Wes because I saw again trying to expand out of Modo into some pipeline tools, seeing the interest in Pascal's Marvelous Designer work. I've met Wes before. Wes has been over at Sabretooth before and works with some old Lexology guys as well over at Algorithmic. And I reached out to him as like, hey, can you make some, you want to go over to Pixel Fondue, make some videos, Modo, huge interest in Substance. He created the normal rounding baking video, which I think has more comments on it than any other Pixel Fondue video. It's a really popular video. So, we're going to pump you for more Substance people to get over to Pixel Fondue. But Wes, why don't you just give us the quick bio, the quick elevator pitch on yourself. Tell us what you do, how you started.
Also make sure to mention all the Ninja stuff you've been doing at the GDC stuff.
There we go.
All right. Oh, hey, everyone. Sorry I was late. I was kind of stuck in another meeting. So, yeah, it's a real honor to work with you guys at Pixel Fondue. You know, some of us go back pretty far ways from the old Luxology Moto days, which is really cool. Yeah, so myself, you know, I've kind of had kind of a roundabout way of getting into the industry, basically. So like I started back doing like video production work. Then I moved into working at UPS Airlines, creating like interactive presentations for pilots and mechanics and stuff like that. So that was kind of interesting. And then through that, though, I started doing more like tutorials and demos. And through that process, I got hooked in with Algorithmic. So I was, you know, just doing some tutorials and things like that from them, for them, you know, going to GDC Unite conference and stuff like that on their behalf. And, you know, just kept working with them until it led into a full-time job, which has been an absolute dream for me. I've been working in Algorithmic now for 3 years as a full-time employee. And so, yeah, it's been awesome. And it's kind of brought me to where I am here today.
So you should know the answer to what we were asking earlier. Is algorithmic a mixture of allegory and algorithm, or is there some other word?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
All right.
There we go. That's so. Hey, Yasin, are you watching the chat, the live stream chat by any chance?
No, but I can.
Yeah, if anybody, I should have brought this up earlier. We have some viewers here, and I think most people watch this later. There's usually a couple thousand people who watch it later, but we'll get some people on. If you want to ask any questions, feel free. Get on, just break in from Wes or Pascal or anything else, and we'll get them out there. I think most people watch. Hey, I can hear myself. Feedback. All right.
So how do you get to that? Is it in the Q&A button on here?
I think there's a little chat button on the.
But I think that's just us. I don't know. I think the chat.
Are you talking about the YouTube one though?
Yeah.
You have to go on to YouTube to see it? Oh, okay.
We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, clearly. Clearly.
All right.
You have to turn off the sound though, because it picks up the.
There we go.
All right.
I'll deal with it. Don't worry about it.
All right, keep your eye on that. So I'm just gonna. So thanks, Wes, for that, and definitely looking for more videos from you. People, like I said, that was a very popular video. I do want to. I'm gonna bring up the survey results. Unless anybody else want to break in here with anything before we do that. Adam, Ed, you've been kind of quiet. What's happening, Ed? How's that one?
It's great, really good. The only thing I would say is that getting back to Marvelous Designer, I mean, it was also used in like The Hobbit, right, to design a lot of the fabric for like the hobbits, like their cloaks and stuff. Because we were kind of making it sound a little bit game centric, but there was I remember reading a whole article about how it was used on those films.
Yeah, I think like I said, like once some artwork gets out there, you know, people in this industry do this because they love it. They're constantly looking around the internet and ArtStation and other places for cool art. And you bump into something, and you're like, how the hell did they do that? And you're like, that's how that stuff gets started. It is still very much a grassroots industry. In fact, Algorithmic was probably had buoyed that way. I know Moto was. Okay, so let me see if I'm going to try a quick screen share, see if that works. Just follow me 1 second here so I don't screen share my email or something.
While you do that, I think one of the coolest things I've seen on Marvelous and what they've done was they were doing like a pilot outfit, and they would basically, it's multiple layers. Obviously, there's the harnesses and everything on top. So it was really cool seeing the artist do one layer, freeze it, simulate the second layer, freeze it, third layer, freeze it over and over and over. And then when they're done, then they simulate all on top. You can see all the harness belts kind of just pulling everything. It was just an amazing workflow to look at, personally at least.
So real quick, Pascal, does Marvelous, I know I used MDD and correct any of the videos, but is Marvelous, is that going to support Alembic?
It does. I haven't used it, honestly, because the MDD workflow works very well for me.
Okay.
So I haven't tried all the other export options, FBX, Alembic, all that. So maybe Yasin knows more about it than I do.
Yeah, I haven't used Alembic either. It's been a combination of exporting LXOs and or OBJs.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see here. Let me do this. I'm just going to do a quick screen share of the results, if I can find it.
Can I say something? I would like to say something about Wes. His videos on Substance Designer and Substance Painter There's just the best introductory videos that you can find on any software if you are starting out. It's thorough, it's very well explained. I mean, really thumbs up for that. It's makes learning the software so much easier.
Thank you very much, Pascal. That means a whole lot to me. It really does. That really makes my day to hear that. It's cool. I really enjoy making the videos, and I don't know. The way I look at it is I taught myself. I know what it's like to struggle to learn software. So basically, if once I kind of go through the process of like figuring out how to do everything, then I think it makes it a little easier to try to teach it at that point. So thank you very much. Those are very kind words. I appreciate it.
All right.
Wes, did you get involved in Substance Designer at the very beginning?
No, actually, I did not. Designer is actually super old. So Algorithmic as a company is it's over 10 years. And so they started in the early days. They started where it was really just like a research arm, basically. So you had like Sebastian, who's the CEO, and then he had the core engineers who were still at Algorithmic. And they were just working on just different research that they could do. And Yazan and Greg, you guys may remember this, but one of the first things I saw them do was for a plugin for Modo called Image Synth. Did you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was like one of the first times I had saw them, and I love that plugin. I used it all the time. I thought it was really cool. So some of that technology was just really what that was just parts of the research of hey, is this can we make this into some type of product? And then I think after that, or maybe even before it, they did another program called Map Zone, which was like Designer, but not really. It was a lot different. And that's super old. And then eventually some of this research they did, it started to turn into Designer. So I didn't actually start using Designer until like maybe version 3. It's on 6 now. So I don't know, maybe halfway into it, I guess.
Okay, cool.
All right. So can you guys see this?
Oh, and an infinite mirror effect.
Can I hide that? Yeah. For some reason, it wasn't letting me select the Internet Explorer window. But do you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of Substance, Substance on the survey got the most votes. What's interesting is the programs that got the most votes, Substance, ZBrush, and Marvelous, are pipeline tools, right?
Wait a minute. So these are things that people want to see more of.
Yeah, right. So 3D Studio Max got the least. So
right. All
take
right.
that, Autodesk. Yeah. So this was the survey from the Pixel Fondue newsletter. So we did have, we had quite a few newsletters. Hundreds, like 300 or 400 newsletters go out. And so we had a decent amount of survey results. And so if you want to sign up for the Pixel Fondue newsletter, go to pixelfondue.com. The button's down at the bottom. I should probably move it to the top. And we all try to contribute. By the way, good job, Pixel Fondue people on the newsletter. I thought that was a good first effort. And if we get enough people going on the newsletter, my at least thought is I could maybe go to Chaos Group and say, hey, look, we've got 2,000 people on this newsletter. Give us a 10% discount or whatever the V-Ray. We'll send it out to everybody. Maybe we could do some stuff like that. Anyway, so yeah, Substance, Marvelous, and ZBrush, top vote getters. And I think this speaks to the way the industry is now in terms of, back in the early days of Modo, every program was striving to be a monolithic program, right? Do everything program. And I think Modo tried to go down that path as well. And they added dynamics, they added animation, they added all this stuff. And what happened is ZBrush came around, and some of these other programs came around, like Substance and Marvelous and like Retopo Gun and some of these other things that came in and kind of ate everybody's lunch in this middle ground of pipeline tools where they did one or two things extremely well.
Well, I think that's why Modo. That's why we all started Modo in the first place, because they did one thing really well.
Yeah.
That was modeling at the time, modeling, texturing, UVing, rendering to an extent, but mainly modeling. And now it does everything. But you can see there on your little chart, the top 3 things are all single-purpose tools. There's one for making textures, there's one for sculpting, there's one for dynamics. Soft body dynamics, and so it just seems like that's what people want, is a tool that does something really well. And so it's
right. So, and if you look at, so this is kind of where I'm going with this is, for me, the majority, I'm actually one of those guys who's probably uses every single feature in Modo. And so
Yeah.
I don't think there's a feature in Modo I haven't used. Most of my output is, either still imagery of product design or product renders, or fairly complex animations for exhibits and product launches and broadcasts and things like that. So my output is images and animations. But for more and more people using a program like Modo, the output is just an FBX file. It's an asset. Because if you look at the other programs on there, I don't need to put it back up, but Unity and Unreal Engine got a lot of votes. And if you'll go to Unity's homepage, they've got like, 1 million downloads. And let's say only 20% of those are being used. That's 200,000 licenses out there. Double that if you look at Unreal Engine 4. Neither of those programs makes anything, right? They need assets, right? They need models. And so I see Modo as a pipeline tool for many, many people as well, even though for myself it's an end-to-end solution.
Well, they're doing really well in games for that reason. I think Modo is perfect for games, at least when compared with, say, Maya. So,
right. So there's there's some basic things about Modo's architecture that make it a really nice modeling program, really nice asset creation tool, both modeling and baking textures or working with a program like Substance. Maya, to its credit, has done a great job gaining ground there. I guess what I'm trying to do a little bit here is nudge Modo, bring up that survey. And granted, there's not a ton of people, but if you look at the success of a company like Algorithmic, Wes, I looked at, there was an article recently that said Algorithmic had 100,000 licenses out there. Is that correct? Like, just I guess you don't have to.
I don't actually know, to be honest with you.
Right. So I can see if I can link to that article. But I was shocked, and the fact is, you guys are doing well in the games industry and the visual effects industry and things like that. So you don't have to say anything specific. But ZBrush obviously doing very, very well. There's a place in the world for pipeline tools to do extremely well. And the reason people use ZBrush instead of sculpting in Modo or Maya, because it's obviously a lot better at that, right? Even better than Mudbox. So doing, like Adam said, doing one thing really well. I just think the industry is different now than it was 10 years ago when Modo decided, we're going to be an everything program. And then the world broadened out with
well, I mean, like even the pipeline stuff doesn't mean necessarily DCC anymore. You can go the route of Clarice, or you can go the route of Fabric Engine, and either one of those, that's just glue. It's just glue. There's no modeling. There's no rendering. You're just taking assets that other people have made. You're bringing them in. You're rigging them. You're making huge scenes or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think to have a pipeline anymore doesn't even necessarily mean you have a DCC at the center of it.
And the way I just real quick, let me jump in, but 3D is not going to get smaller. There's going to be a 3D model of every single thing on the planet. I mean, it just is. The biggest companies in the world right now, Facebook and Google and other big companies, are dumping billions into VR. Might fail, but not
Which,
before.
by the way, it's a good segue into. Somebody asked if VR is still a thing. Is everybody still on the VR bandwagon?
It's still a thing as long as like these gigantic companies are dumping tons of money into it. If they abandon it, then maybe it's not a thing. But they sure as hell, Oculus. Adam, I know you do some work for Oculus. They were bought by Facebook. What, $2 billion?
$2 billion back. Yeah.
They're not going to write off $2 billion a year later. They're going to keep after it for a while. All right. So you've got
another $2 billion before they write it off.
Yeah, you've got there's at least another year of steam left in it. I mean, I think we've passed peak VR hype, but hype doesn't do anybody any good. So I think we're now getting into the meat of it, where we're going to actually see what happens. And I'm still very much on the bandwagon with, like I said, with my seatbelt on. Like I'm strapped in, ready to go. The thing is, for anybody watching who's thinking like, it's so lame, everybody's talking about VR, who cares? It's not. If you have not tried it, shut your mouth. Yeah. That's the thing. Okay. If you've tried it and you still think that it doesn't, that it's not worth your time, fine. But you got to try it first. Otherwise, you don't understand. You can't until you've tried it.
And I also think you have to try it. You have to try the right things in it. I've seen a lot of.
You have to try good stuff.
First of all, let me just clarify: having a Samsung phone in a cardboard box and then doing this, that's not true.
No,
I mean, that's basically a spherical map VR that you're looking into for the most part. There are some that give you a sense of it, but try a true VR system first, as Adam said, and then give some judgment. And in addition to that, I think there are certain tools today in VR that lend themselves well to that environment, and there's a crap load of tools and games that are just, I mean, I just don't understand why they thought this would be a good idea to just put it in VR.
And I don't necessarily think that VR is the future. Like, I think that it's a part of the future where everybody's going. I think the future, and I do think we're looking at a whole new realm of computing. And I think that's going to be summed up in mixed reality. So I think the future is part VR, part AR. And I think what really is going to be the future is what everybody keeps deeming as this mixed reality. You know, and I think that like Greg, you were mentioning all these companies putting money. I think that, yeah, they're going to continue to pour money into this because, you know, you keep reading it. I think it's the next innovative wave, you know, like we had smartphones and then we had, you know, what's the next new thing? I think it's going to be this mixed reality where it's, you know, a combination of AR, VR in some form or another. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be just a VR headset. I think it's going to evolve into more. And then also you got to think about the technology itself. Like right now you're tethered, but down the road, you won't be tethered. You'll be more free moving around. I mean, think, you know, 10 years down the road, the VR that we see today is going to be unrecognizable to the VR maybe / AR solutions that we have in the future.
Yeah, that's my other point. We're in the infancy here, and whatever the solution is, they're going to need 3D content.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that seems like a area of growth.
I mean, look at Microsoft with the you know, what is it they calling it, the 3D Everywhere initiative or whatever, what they're doing with the Creators Update in Windows. I mean, it's like,
yeah, they slapped 3D on their OS name. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're seeing this, and that's what I was mentioning with this whole mixed reality boom. This is like the next huge wave that technology is going to ride, and that technology is going to ride. And I think you got these huge companies like Facebook and Microsoft, and they're seeing this and going, yeah, we need content creators. So us being 3D artists, this is like the golden age for us. I think it's amazing, you know. Yeah. And anybody, I mean, you have all these tools that are accessible now, and that you can get in and create it. It's like the best time to be a 3D artist, I think.
Yeah, we recently lost James Darknell, who went to, where did he go? Facebook. Wonder what he's working on. Oh, probably their homepage. I mean, come on. Like there's a lot of opportunity out there, and so you know, yeah. I just want that part of the discussion going forward in terms of Moto's future, because for me, my best interest, like I do a ton of animation in Moto and stuff like that, and so I see people who want cloth features and they want simulation features and stuff like that. But I think like long term, I mean, that stuff can all come down the road if you broaden your market by 400% by really going after asset creation for the 200,000 or whatever Unity and Unreal licenses out there that are going to be used to create this stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a big opportunity for a package that you were talking about, pipeline packages. And just to talk about Moto, I mean, Moto's living in this kind of in this world that's like, it's not a high-end expensive package, but it's also not cheap enough for people making games and stuff. Indie tries to do that, but if you can't write scripts for it, that if they can't buy my scripts, basically Indie is useless to me. So yeah, I think we're stuck in a tricky middle ground.
Well, I think, right, some companies are trying to catch up where, you know, for us who've been around a long time, we remember the Maya PLE and all these failed low-cost cut-down versions of expensive 3D packages. They all failed. They all sucked.
Yeah.
You know, Houdini went forward with Houdini Indie, which I think was in part an effort just to grow their base because it's a complex program. It's different. It takes a long time to learn. There's, you know, people that had demand from the VFX industry. They needed to find people to fill that. And they did that there. But you got to catch up. Like I used to roll my eyes at the indie market. Oh, come on, guys. Like, can't you dish out a couple $100 for this? It's your career. But you have companies like Algorithmic that have a different tiers of licensing and pricing structures and ways to get the program into people's hands. I have never heard anybody complain about Algorithmic's offerings. Like they don't complain about the various.
I think I've literally, and Matt's gonna love this. I think I've literally never heard anything negative about Algorithmic at all. I don't think anybody has ever said anything negative about you guys, as far as I'm aware.
No, we get it. We get it. And rightfully so. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we'd love to hear feedback from the community, and whether it be positive or negative, it's good to get all that, especially sometimes, you get, constructive, negative feedback so that we can just make things better, and we've had some people say some things about pricing early on, and we looked at internally and then we changed it. So the whole idea is just to try to make the products accessible to as many people as possible. I don't know. I'll say that's a testament to Sebastian, though, the CEO of, because it sounds like when you say that, you're like, make it accessible to as many people as possible so we can make a ton of, just make money. And obviously, any company needs to make money to stay afloat. I mean, I hope they, I need that so I can have a job. But at the same time, though, I'll say it's a testament to Sebastian, the CEO, that I think makes Algorithmic special, because he is very artistic person. He's a very smart person. And he really, truly cares about people being able to make art.
Sounds like somebody who used to be at the Foundry but isn't anymore.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Mari beat Substance Painter to the market by several years. Am I correct? I mean, it was definitely on the market prior to Substance.
Yeah. Substance Painter's
Substance Painter's what, $600? Is that right? Well, there's different ways to buy it, but
yeah, it's like the standalone pro purchase, I think. Yeah.
And Mari's what, 3x that? Basically, do you really think there's only 3 times as many Substance Painters as Mari users? I mean, there's probably 30 times as many people using Substance Painter as Mari, which maybe costs 3 times as much, but all those people went ahead and bought Substance Painter. And so you're making money, clearly. It doesn't have to be a high-priced program.
Yeah, but you have to be careful when you make these kind of judgments, because when you look at I'm gonna, being from the CAD world, I don't have any analog in this industry, but like in CAD, if you look at say Dassault Systems, right? They have SolidWorks, which is pretty popular and fairly inexpensive for an engineering CAD system, $5 to $8 grand for a seat. And then you've got CATIA, which can run anywhere from 20, 30, 40 grand. You can even run 100 grand seat, depends on what you have. The CATIA business is minuscule in terms of users compared to SolidWorks. I mean, many orders of magnitude, but CATIA still makes more money overall. So just because you have a very small user base does not mean you can't make very real money doing it if you're charging high prices.
No, that is true. I think what happened is Foundry probably underestimated the demand for a 3D painting package.
Maybe, or it can also be that Foundry doesn't care to deal with mass market. I mean, some people don't want to do that kind of support. They just want to deal with a small number of big customers.
Yazan's head's about to explode.
Just a little bit. No, what I'm gonna say is, I think, obviously, I do think there's a missed opportunity for Mari, but that's not the point. I think the point is, Mari is the best way to put it. I was talking to Jack, one of the guys the main guy that wrote Mari. Basically, Mari is a data management system more than a painting system. It's really more about managing the insane amount of data that has to go through it for the onset assets that are being targeted. So films like Avatar in stereo at 16K or 32K or 64K maps, that's more of a data problem than it is a texture problem. If you've ever seen somebody demo Mari, it's a technical program. They'll be going around showcasing how you turn stuff on and off more than their texture painting. Whereas I find Substance Painter to be more of an artistic friendly tool to create things on the fly, and it seems a lot more intuitive in terms of, like I said, it's like the Autodesk versus Marvelous Designer. I think there's 2 different audiences and 2 different needs for these tools. Had they spent more time, yeah, they could probably competed better. But I think it's just, Substance Painter did a better job of introducing artist-friendly tools at a relatively affordable price. Again, just did the right thing at the right time to the right audience members.
And there's also just branding involved too. I mean, when you talk about having a brand, a brand has a certain market slot, right? And you can't stretch the Moto brand up to a $50,000 product. It won't stretch that high. And similarly, the Nuke brand is up at a certain price point, and they don't necessarily want to pollute that by selling, low end stuff. So I think, you can think
so yeah, and these are all great points. What I'm trying to do here is start a conversation, because I think what happened is I think, like I said, guilty of this as well. I've seen so many of these low-cost versions fail, and the world has changed. And there's programs out there that require just assets, just like I said, Unity and Unreal. And there's a lot of those users out there. I just want to start this conversation to make sure that the indie market isn't being attitudes need to change all the way up through the corporate structure on this market. It's a viable market. It's being served well by Algorithmic and other companies. And so let's just start a conversation on this. It's not me personally, because I'm the guy who buys the high price version, uses all the features, but I just see the world is different. Like Ed, you're not you're an actor. I mean, you're that's where you're making your money.
True, yeah.
But you spend thousands of dollars on computer hardware and software. I mean, how do you look at this?
It's an expensive hobby at this point. And I mean, with I learned a little bit of Maya. I came to Modo basically because it was less expensive, and it was the big thing about Modo was it was the first 3D package that I really understood all of the concepts that I couldn't learn on Maya. But if I ever wanted to get back to Maya, at this point, Autodesk basically closed me out because of their subscription.
So you're not even you're not considering Maya anymore because you don't have $15K a year that you can just.
Exactly. Yeah. And if I were to get on like the monthly subscription, it's just that's just out of my.
Well, that's like crazy. That's a couple $100 a month.
Yeah, $150 a month or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So should we segue into Autodesk now, or do you guys want to keep talking about Pascal? Do you have any thoughts about this?
Well, I just want to say that there are other markets in 3D than the games and the indie market. For instance, what I work on, especially in the States now, I work in Previs or animatics and cinematics. There's a huge amount of 3D now, and it's all based on you have to go fast, so there's no time to do like very detailed assets and all that. But you have to go fast. So it's motion capture. With very simple setups in a room like this one, maybe a little bigger, like 12 cameras, something like that. The production companies have their setup, and then it goes maybe sometimes into Motion Builder, sometimes into their own pipeline, but it's all Maya. And it's amazing the amount of work that's done in that pipeline. And I don't see Modo fitting in there. People don't know at all about Modo. It's not even a choice. When I talk to them about it, it's like.
Do they model the low-res assets in Maya?
Yeah.
Okay. So I go ahead, Ed.
No, I was just going to say that's interesting because I would think that Modo would actually be a really viable choice for animatics, just because you're building things pretty low res. I mean, it's performance.
Probably is. They just don't know about it, right? Is that it, Pascal?
Yeah, the performance playback is just impossible.
So that's performance playback. Okay. So let's talk about Autodesk now just a little bit, and you just have to let me. I'll try to be concise, and I've got some visual aids. But in general, I own Autodesk Creative Suite. I've owned it since 2012. I even found the box.
You mean? Oh yeah, okay.
So that was like $7,000 or something I dropped on that. That was 5 years ago. I think another $1,000 a year. So that's about $12K I've put into that box there. And there is a difference between subscription for a new user and a current user. So Ed would be like a new user. He looks at subscription. You know what? It's a hobby, 15K a year. That's like all my other hobbies combined and repeated every year. Like, I'm just not going to do that. Fine. You're making a decision based on that, and you go to an option like Modo. If you're a current user, you've already made a 12K investment, and you have a company that's essentially coming to current users. Let me break this down a little more. There's a difference between new users and current users. We all agree with that?
Yep.
Adam? Yeah. And sure. There's a difference between a hobbyist, a small business freelancer, and if you're working at Electronic Arts and you're managing 500 Maya licenses, right? So there's differences between current users as well. And so I'm going to be, because this is what I am, I think most of our audience is probably falling in the hobbyist and freelancer small business like Sabertooth or 9B or Mechanicolor, some of these small businesses we have here. So I'm going to address that and what I got. So again, I'm just going to actually bring up the letter that they sent me because you actually have to see this thing. So let me do the sharing thing again, see if I could get this to work. I think entire screen. share.
Interestingly, actually, on Friday, I interviewed Carl Bass from Autodesk, who's no longer the CEO as of a few weeks
Yes,
ago.
that's right. Oh, you did. What
Yeah.
on
on Engineer
Snap?
versus Designer. So yeah, it'll be on Solid Smack probably in the next couple of days. So
All right. Can you guys see this screen at all?
Oh yeah.
See? Okay. All right. So first of all, hello, blank space, right? So my name's Greg. I'm in your database. Like, if you're gonna F me, know my name. Right? I mean, come on, right? Okay, so they want to take a minute to share the direction that Autodesk is heading and give us a special offer to move to subscription. And so it's this moving down here. Okay, I'm reading my email here, and they believe so. Somebody, I just wonder, like the number of people crowded around the laptop to write this thing or in the conference room. But
yeah.
So it's going to basically.
The only thing they forgot to attach to this is the head of a horse.
Right.
Right. I know. That's the way it feels. So basically we're on the path to becoming a subscription-only company. Okay. So here's your following benefits: latest and greatest product capability. So if you have maintenance, there's no tangible difference I can see at all. If you have maintenance, you get the latest and greatest. It's not like the subscribers get a special version. You don't. You get it. Access to new industry collections. All that's saying is, like that box I showed earlier, that's phased out because they're not going to offer. I got Softimage with that. They're not going to offer that anymore. They have a new package without Softimage. So that's what your access is to, basically a package with less software in it. New and improved support. Does anybody on this call give a crap about that and believe that for a second?
Well, it's like internet fast lanes. There's no such thing as an internet fast lane. There are only slow lanes, and it's the same thing here. They're like, here are the things that we're not going to cut out of your service if you remain on subscription.
It's like early '90s stuff, like Avid. Like, okay, you get support. And it's like, come on, we're gonna call you and have some guy who knows less than me like try to answer a question. Okay, simplified administration. So I will give this some credence to the guy at Electronic Arts who has 500-mile licenses. He's not paying for it. He doesn't care. He just has to submit the budget to somebody above him to get signed off on. They don't even know what Maya is. Okay, fine. Okay, but for me, there is no simplified administration. I have a little program right here that I just update it automatically.
Well, Greg, if they didn't think it was a tough sell, they wouldn't have written a 2,000-word essay to try to convince you.
Right.
So
Right.
they recognize that this is a tough sell.
It's not it's not tough enough to put your name in there, but it's tough.
Oh, it gets worse. So with our move to subscription, one thing has become clear to us: managing two business models, subscriptions and maintenance, which is hardly any difference, is quite costly. So to continue supporting maintenance, beginning on this May, we're going to increase it by 5% in 2017, double that to 10% 2018, double it again to 20% 2019, because apparently as people are moving off this, their cost is going up. They're not even offering this anymore. How can their cost get okay? Anyway, so I don't know what they. So like when I went to upgrade, I go to my little Autodesk upgrader to get my maintenance, and here's what it says: contact your reseller. I mean that's costing them. I just don't buy it. If you're going to throw this at me, that is costing you more, and you're going to increase my percentage increase exponential, like doubling every year. This percentage increase in cost, and to me, a customer of 7 years or whatever, I'm just like, you got to show me more than that. I'm not taking your word for it. And there's no more after the whole WMD thing. I'm not taking anybody's word for it.
Do you have any? Do you have any four letter words you want to say, or like it just feels like there's something coming here. You're leading up to something.
I'm trying to keep it clean, but now let's move on. Okay, now that we've shared the direction we're heading, we'd like to talk to you about special offer towards subscription. What I recognize is your loyalty and the value of your previous investments. Really, okay. So here's where it gets very insulting. So beginning in 2017, you'll be able to move your products on a maintenance plan to a subscription for up to 60% less than the cost of a new subscription. Okay. Then this discount will decrease every year, while your maintenance, by the way, is increasing every year.
If you're still paying maintenance, I mean, they're trying to get you off maintenance.
Right. So this is right. This is how it comes off as a scam. And this is the one that gets me right here. When you make the switch, you'll also be able to lock in your discounted price for up to 3 years and continue to receive discounted pricing for as long as you renew. So so what they're not saying here is this is a trade-in offer, right? This is a trade-in, and they're looking to take this. So I give you this $12,000 investment. I give you this. I give it back to you. I give it back to you plus like another $1,000 with my discount or whatever. I give it to you, and you give me the exact same thing, except I no longer own it. I have to rebuy it every year for the rest of my.
You give it back to them. You still have the version that you have in that box. That's yours forever.
No longer works.
Oh, you can't get it a license server.
It is a trade-in, Adam. It is a trade-in. If I move to subscription, and that's why they glossed over that in the letter, and you have to, it's in a fine print if you go onto their site, and I can show that as well. This is where it gets really insulting. They just called me a loyal customer who invested in their product for years. Now they're saying, give this back to us, and we will give you the exact same thing. But you don't own it. You have to give us more money every year, or it doesn't work. That's a better deal. That's a better deal. You get more. You get support. It's a better deal. Like that's where it's like you just like okay. So let me go back to this. Like obviously I'm getting like a little bit like come on, man. So if I go back to share the screen, go back to this silly thing here. Well, let's just drag down. Okay, Teresa, Anania. Teresa.
Oh no, you're calling her by name.
I'm gonna call her Teresa, even though she called me hello blank space. I mean, loyal customer. Hello. Want to give us your stuff and we'll rent it back to you. I mean, that's what this letter is. Hi, give us your thing you bought from us. We'll rent it back to you. Dumbass. I mean, they're just like.
Oh man, this is good. The chat line is lit now. Everybody's enjoying the moment of rage that's coming out of Gregory.
Well, so I mean, it's insult. So right. So okay, Teresa. Let me go back so you can see my face, Teresa, because I hope somebody. Oh no, I'm all.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, get back. Okay, so let me make a move. Come back to me. Go. Okay, Teresa. How could you send this? Can you imagine receiving this letter? You just called us a loyal customer. You gave us 4 bullshit reasons, unless you're like EA and you easier maintenance. No, first of all, you bullshitted this, or at least gave us a reason that this is costing you more without any evidence, and said that you're going to jack up the price every year on maintenance. And then you give us 4 sort of bullshit reasons why subscription is better than maintenance. And then you offer, and I'm going to break down the price in a second, by the way. And you offer us this deal, which we'll take a look at, because we're 3D artists. We know math. We're not idiots. I mean, come on. And then you basically you don't even put in the letter the fact that we can no longer use perpetual license. That this is a trade-in. It's a trade-in. We're trading in a massive price plus all the years of maintenance we put in there already. You're trading it in for something. You're renting us back the same thing.
Anybody else have an opinion on Wes?
Wes is like, I did not sign up for that. Is what they're saying on the chat window.
Yeah,
like,
you're prodding us. Like, well, hold on, we'll get to Wes because I'm not done yet. You're prodding us along. You have a spear back like 5% increase. 10% increase, 20% increase, what 40% increase in 2020, 80% increase in 2021. Nothing is stopping them from doing that. They can do that. They're basically saying, we effing dare you to switch packages. We dare you. You're so invested in 3D that in this program that we can offer you this crap offer to have us make you give us back the thing you bought from us and rent you the same thing back to you. We're so convinced that you're tied to us that we're actually going to throw this out there, and we dare you to change. And let me tell you, 3D is different than Creative Cloud and Photoshop. And just as an example, I downloaded Affinity Pro last night. I'd never used it before. Let me share my screen again. Share and bring up Affinity Pro. Can you guys see Affinity Pro?
Not quite. There we go. Yep.
Okay, so I have never used this program before in my life. And the thing with 3D is it's a very complex, it takes years to become a master of a 3D program. I can't load my fully rigged Hammerhead Shark I use in Moto, my fish asset that I've built up over years of work. into Maya and just have it work. Like this is a file that I had delivered to a client a couple of days ago. It's a Photoshop file. I downloaded Affinity Pro, loaded it up, and it works. Everything's there. Layer, like adjustment layers are there. Group masks are there. All the keyboard shortcuts appear to be the same. If Photoshop disappeared from the earth tomorrow, I could download Affinity Pro. By the way, Affinity Pro is, let me just go to their website, is no subscription. Just that's their value prop. No subscription, $50. And you can load up your Photoshop file and work on it that day without cracking a manual. So it's not the same thing as Adobe. It's not the same thing. If you were to take my 10 years of Modo expertise away from me and all of my assets that my clients, repeat clients come back to me year after year, I'm in a huge amount of trouble. So I am definitely more tied to a 3D program than a 2D programs. 3D programs are much different. It's a totally different ballgame than Adobe Creative Cloud.
What about After Effects, though?
Yeah. Okay. Right. So it's different. Right. So it is different with After. And there's a lot there with there's a lot of different.
I think
Adobe
the big
programs,
difference. The big difference is that the Creative Cloud, it might be a misleading name, but whatever. It's a ridiculous bargain. It is so cheap for what they're offering you, and so that's the big difference. You can go to subscription. Like if I think the big difference, what we're talking about here is just dollars. It's just how many dollars you have to pay, and you're going to have to pay more for Maya than you were before, and that pisses you off. Whereas with Adobe, when they made the switch, they just made it so cheap that nobody cared, or very few people. I certainly didn't.
Right. When Adobe made the switch, I had the Creative Suite or whatever, and I was paying, I think, whatever, $1,800, whatever it was. Basically, I got a hell of a lot more for way less. So I got a whole bunch. I got all these other programs I'd never used, like all the web design programs, Acrobat Pro, stuff I actually use every once in a while for creating like invoices and things like that. And it cost less. This is not the case. If I do my screen share here and bring up my breakdown of Maya. Whoops, sorry guys. Feedback. Okay, can you see this? I zoom in here. So you guys see this?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So I took this off of, I think, Rim Crazy on, so I don't have Maya, I have Creative Suite, so I can't do a direct Maya comparison, but Rim Crazy on the Luxology forums, Rim Crazy, I might want to, I don't know, okay, change that handle. So he broke this down, right? So this is with the percentage increase. So this is like a $600 maintenance, 5% additional, 10% additional, 20% additional. At the end of 3 years, $2,155. Now, if you go to Autodesk's website, it says 30% off, although that letter to me said up to 60% off. So I put them both there. After 3 years, even if you get 30% off with subscription, you're paying quite a bit more than if you just did maintenance. In 3 years, if it's a 60% off, you're less, but you just do one more year at full price. And here I just did another 20% increase, and then all of a sudden it's break even, and that's in 4 years. Anything after that, subscription is quite a bit more expensive than maintenance, even if jacking up the maintenance price, and you no longer own it. So, and here we are, if you just start Maya fresh, 14, you're up at 5K, almost 6K after 4 years. So I don't see any value in this offer at all. I see it as we're doing this, and like Adam said, I guess I'm coming at it as I understand corporate.
We get that you're pissed. I get the impression that you're pissed off, and that's okay. And a lot of us don't like it either. Okay, so don't get me wrong. And I've written plenty of angry blog posts about Dassault Systems when they did the same thing to us with SolidWorks. I mean, this stuff happens, and it's really irritating. But at a certain point, you just have to be a businessman. You have to be a grown up and say, look, is this value proposition still worth it to me as a business person? If it is, pay it. If it's not, don't. And that's kind of the big deal here. It's like,
but Adam, everybody's going to make that decision and be a grown up. That's you have to if you're going to continue on. So that's
my point. And so you've got this proposition in front of you. You're saying, look, here's how much I'm going to have to pay. It's more than before. C'est la vie. And so what are we going to do?
You can still be pissed. You can still be pissed, right?
Sure you can.
Because you can still, like they said, they call you a loyal customer. You've dumped a lot of money into this, and then this is what they throw back at you. So it's okay to be pissed. And Autodesk needs to know that people are pissed. So Teresa, people are pissed. That's a bullshit letter. Be honest with us. Just tell us, like, look, man, software as a service is worth more. We're going to force all you guys over if it's the last thing we do. Sorry, be a grown up, make a decision. Fine, at least you're being honest. Like, don't blow smoke up my ass, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm done with this one now, but I wanted to get that out. I hope I spoke for a lot of people there. All right.
Moment of silence for Greg Zander.
Let's talk about how great algorithms are. How everybody should do what they're doing.
Or how long will they be doing it, though? That's the thing. I mean, I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a lot of software that's not software as a service in 5 years. It'll exist, but it's going to be the small guys, and even the ones like Affinity that you're seeing right now that are not that value proposition. You can hold me to it. I'll bet in 5 years they're acquired by somebody and they have a subscription available. That might not be their only thing, but I bet they will have one because that is a bit more profitable business model. And if you are a software maker and you see two business models, one's more profitable than the other, you're going to choose the one that's more profitable.
Well, so it is to a point, right? So there's a balance of power here. So when a software company offers a good value, and the thing is, like Maya's been doing great in terms of value. They've really had some great releases, which is sort of the ironic thing here. So then you can balance between, am I going to spend this much for value or go to an alternative? So you have some power as a consumer by always going to an alternative, right? If there's no alternative, and part of the issue with being a 3D animator is it's difficult to switch. It'll take me a year to regain. I've used Maya since version 3. It'll take me a year to regain my expertise.
I totally agree with you. And by the way, it's totally okay to be pissed. I didn't say you shouldn't be pissed. I just said I'm just saying that at a certain point, I just got over it. Like, because even though this stuff pisses me off, I ranted and raved about it for a while, but that didn't change anything. And I ultimately just had to take a deep breath, do what I tell my 3-year-old to do, take a deep breath and quit the screaming and just be like, all right, well, we're going to have to do something. And what I found was, that the tools that I was using were worth it for what I was doing, for my business. And so,
here's what I'm going to do, though. I'm not going to submit, Adam. Not going to submit. If you are another software vendor out there, take a look at what Autodesk is doing. Take a look. Again, balance of power. As long as there's alternatives, people will choose differently. If you go to the Autodesk forums, there is a ton of people saying, forget it. I've seen people on the Foundry forums who saying, like, I'm an Autodesk user, I own Modo, I'm looking into it. Take a look at the landscape here.
Those are all the same people who moved to Canada when Trump was elected, i.e. none of them. They say they're going to switch.
Okay, you're saying that, yet Affinity Designer exists. It says no subscription. They have users. I see them online. I have a feeling they're making money. So there is an alternative. There is an alternative route here. And I am, if doing nothing, trying to use this as a platform to throw that back your way and to think about that a little bit. Okay. I hope people aren't looking at Autodesk and saying, yeah, man, they were able to strong arm their users over. Let's do that too.
I do think there's some I think there's some sense in kind of what you're saying. Look, Adobe did it. I think everybody looked at Adobe and said they did it. Why can't we do it? But I do think that, as Adam said, the value of what you're getting for the price that you're getting is very different than what Autodesk seem to be doing. And they are strong arming. And let's face it, some of their tools are industry standard, and they'll until something else pops up and offers something different, whether it's in the price, whether it's in the features. I mean, you could go and find maybe 4 or 5 tools to take over what Maya did, for example, and still have a better option.
Right. So there was
for everybody.
By the way, somebody's pointing out that Autodesk has been losing money since the switch over, and they have. It's true, but so did Adobe for the first few years. That's a short-term deal.
Do you remember how long it took for Adobe? I don't recall it was that long. Was it?
Yeah, it took several years. It took 2 or 3 years, I think, for them to build back up.
And again, there's subscriptions. Like I do Creative Cloud, and I always say I pay more for the guy who mows my lawn than I do for Creative Cloud, and I make a lot of money off Creative Cloud. And so there's definitely a place in the world for subscriptions. I don't like the strong arm tactic with Creative. You can just subscribe to Photoshop if that's all you use. And it's super cheap. It's like 2 cups of coffee a month. I mean, it's not a lot. I think this could open up the doors for some other opportunities for some other software companies. Like Houdini's already got their foot in the water with Houdini Indie. We'll see. There's only a half dozen really players left in this industry. I'm just trying to, again, start a conversation and do some nudging and look at it this way. and we don't want to talk about the Foundry directly because they haven't announced anything yet. So I'm obviously doing some indirect talking here. But like, you look at like Ed, you know, Ed is a hobbyist. He makes 3D stuff for hobby. There's a lot of hobbyists who also paint and draw and stuff like that. Imagine you're a hobbyist. Imagine a hobbyist who says, I want to create some art. I'm going to jump onto my program. I'm going to create some art. I'm going to jump to my canvas and create some art. Can you imagine, like, I'm going to go paint now because I feel the inspiration has struck me. I'm going to go do oil painting and, oh, shit, I forgot I rented all my paintbrushes. I don't have them anymore. Nobody would do that.
Well, they would if they were very expensive paintbrushes inherently. Like if you're
very expensive cameras.
That's the thing. If your art, if your art involves expensive equipment, you might rent it for a shoot, or you might rent it for sculpting for a week and then send it back. And then when you need to do more sculpting, you go and you rent the tool again. I mean that.
Yep, there is a place for that. I used to rent HD decks all the time because they're 150 grand.
And so by the way, I feel like I'm coming out. I'm coming off as like the pro Autodesk voice in this, and I'm not. I'm just trying to kind of balance a little bit of Greg's ire here.
Well, I mean, this is either going to work for them or it's not. And other companies are either going to follow their lead or they're not. And we're just going to 3D is not going away, so we're going to see how this shakes out.
But I think that's the difference, Greg, is that Autodesk has leverage because their tools are industry standard. I think if you owned another piece of software that was the industry standard for something and you did that, you'd get away with it. But if you have a tool that's not industry standard and you did that, you'd probably just lose people because they're going to look for something else. It's not about subscription. It's not about the subscription itself. It's about the value of what they're getting for that and whether they're being, like in this case of Autodesk, if as a user you're feeling like you're being manipulated into it and not being told the truth. I think there are some cases where users are like, you know what, I'm not going to take this. I'm going to go change and do something else. Sometimes you have that option. Sometimes you don't. It just depends on every unique situation.
Well, Pascal, you're a freelancer now who jumps from job to job. Do you feel comfortable paying subscription for your software, not necessarily knowing what your cash flow situation is, or if you're going to jump to another job that requires that software?
No, I'm not. Actually, I made a list of what I own here. My only subscription is Adobe because I have to for my job. I mean, I would go with Affinity, but you just need to have that suite if you work with the agencies or with anyone else. And otherwise, I have two softwares on maintenance, which are Synthise and RealFlow. And I stopped the maintenance, so I have RealFlow 2013, I think, and Synthise 2000 something also, which are fine with me. I don't need to upgrade. Or if I get a job that requires the new upgrade, then I can justify the upgrade, but that's all. And otherwise, each time I have the option of going permanent license versus subscription, I went with the permanent license. So that's Substance and Marvelous Designer.
So Ed, let's talk about algorithmic. Not Ed, Wes. Let's talk about algorithmic. Sorry, Ed. Did you have something you want to add?
I'm good.
Ed, you got your hand. Wes. So algorithmic does something a little interesting. It does a rent to own essentially offer. I guess without giving you numbers, is that if you can't even say it, but does that seem like, do people like that?
Yeah, so people definitely like it. I mean, I'm not on the sales side of things, but going to places like GDC and like the various conferences, Unite and SIGGRAPH, and when I get to talk to customers and users of the tools, and when you tell them how that is, yeah, they always they always seem to really appreciate that. It's funny because that's it's one of the things I say, because I'm like, well, it's subscription, and then it's good that I can then say that, and then you get that first kind of like, oh, people get, oh no, here we come, and then like, but then you go, but it's pay to own, because you can pay the subscription, but then you will eventually own the software, and if you don't want to pay anymore, you can use that same. It's not gonna you're not gonna stop being able to use the software. So yeah, people every time I've talked to someone and they hear that, they're pretty blown away by that we have that.
I think that's pretty awesome. And there are really to me two types of people who object to subscriptions. One is, it's going to cost me more, and that's just That's just a pretty straight ahead proposition. I don't want to pay more money. I want to pay them as much as I'm paying now. That makes sense. It's a perfectly good reason. The second reason is also a perfectly good reason. And that's right. And that's the software survivalist, I call them. It's the person who wants, come hell or high water, to be able to open their files no matter what happens to the company. And that makes sense too. If your subscription, or if your software doesn't work unless a cloud server is working, what happens when that company goes out of business and you no longer have that license server or whatever? So those are both perfectly good reasons to not like subscriptions. I happen to think that in my experience, the subscriptions I've used have been really good, and I haven't had any problems with them. And so overall, I'm pretty happy. That said, prices do go up, and that is frustrating. And also, if the cloud's not working, then I'm not working. That's pretty much true these days.
Right.
So,
let's not forget that. Remember when we all thought maintenance was bullshit? And now that's like the better option. Remember, we thought like, oh, you want me to prepay $1,000 for software that's not out yet? I have no idea what's in it. I have no idea if I even want it.
right.
Like, you want me to prepay for it? Otherwise, I incur a
And now
penalty.
you're like, just please take my money.
Right.
I don't like where it's heading. I mean, the most
Yeah.
customer friendly is upgrade whenever you want without a penalty. Upgrade whenever you want with a penalty, which I think is reasonable too. If you skip versions, you get all those features. Maintenance and subscription flip flop, because like a new user, maintenance subscription can very well be the best thing out there. And also
For a new user, it's perfect. Yeah.
right. So, but definitely the balance of power is shifting towards the companies. I feel like I think the balance of power is going that way.
But don't you think everything's going to go to subscription later? I mean, don't you think computers are on the way out also? Which is, I think, why Apple is, dismissing their own. Soon you'll be renting your computer. You won't even have a computer. Just have an interface on your desk, and you go work online.
I think that's a good point, Pascal. I think that's interesting, like what you just said, because it does seem that way. It seems that way for everything. Like, somehow I keep reading these articles, you hear Windows as a service and that kind of stuff. I mean, how long is it before your operating system itself, you're paying a monthly fee, to use the operating system?
It's like electricity. You're just going to be paying for that. For the rest of your life.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like we do it. I don't know how.
They'd be like cable providers, basically, huh?
Yeah,
is that what we're going to be?
yeah.
Oh, God. I don't want to have another.
It's
Qualcomm is not. What's the one? Comcast is not another company I want more of.
Yeah, exactly. Cable.
Well,
yeah.
I just went to the Apple store yesterday, actually, but I just happened to be at the mall, and I walked in, and they'd completely redone it. There were about 3 iMacs on one corner of the room, and that was the only. And one table of laptops. One table. The whole rest of the floor space was all phones and tablets. And
watches.
Yeah, and watches.
Yeah.
There were no Mac Pros, 3 iMacs, and a handful of
They're a cell phone
laptops.
company,
They're all phones. And also, just another random. I want to ask you guys. I walked in there, and they had what must have been a 20-foot wide, probably 2-to-1 display, high def, super high def display, showing these like slow flyovers of major metropolitan areas and little thing, graphics popping up. It was gorgeous. It was so stunning. I've never seen a display like that. I want to know where they got it and what the resolution was. It was crazy.
Yeah,
I am disappointed with their laptops, their current ones. I need a new laptop, and I just cannot justify buying that thing when there is no
stupid
speed.
little display thing. What's the point?
The touch bar. I don't actually. The touch bar. I personally like to customize stuff. I can see it being beneficial. I don't understand how 4 years in. I've got 5 years in. I'm on a 2012 MacBook Pro that could literally do the same performance CPU wise as that one. I went and I got the Geekbench test done over there, and I did it on my machine. And I'm like, really? You want me to pay? It's like, it feels like a subscription model. It feels like I'm just paying you for the same shit again, and you're not even giving me any more additional features. Other than that, it's something I'm not gonna be. It's not vital to me. But I think they just, it's so funny because they call it MacBook Pro. I think it's over. It's not a Pro thing at all.
Yeah.
And I used to think that maybe this was actually, I was gonna open up a whole dialogue about this, but I used to think that the whole Apple shift away from Pro was maybe I'm not the Pro anymore. Maybe there's a different type of Pro they're looking for. And I thought, okay, maybe it's the YouTuber Pro, right? But then you go online and you hear all these YouTubers, pros, bitching about the new MacBook Pro, saying like, this is a piece of crap. Like we can't do our work on it. And I'm like, have they shifted again to a different pro who just isn't a pro at all?
Maybe a pro web surfer, you know?
Yeah.
No.
I'm in the pro web surfer, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Pro Facebook, pro Instagrammer, you know.
Anyway, I don't know if we have time to do anything, but there was an interesting point I wanted to get up. One of the Kevin Ketchum, who's he's actually a creative specialist at the Foundry, had posed a question regarding photogrammetry. What are your guys' thoughts on it? And I have some thoughts on it. It'll be great if you have any thoughts on photogrammetry.
So I'm not going to hog the mic anymore. Just my point is, I almost brought.
Feels like a butt. Feels like a butt is coming on.
Another
You will listen to me rant. Oh no, like I almost brought this up earlier. We were talking about Modo and the as a pipeline tool, and one of the fertile areas I think for expansion is photogrammetry. So sounds like they're feeling that out. So somebody else take that. Ed, what do you think about photogrammetry?
Wait a minute. What did you say? Who's feeling out photogrammetry? Greg, you said somebody's.
Well, Yazan said somebody from the creative specialist of the Foundry just posed the question to the online chat here, right? The live stream chat. Right?
Oh, wow.
So
Yes.
here's my thoughts. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think photogrammetry is a solid part of the future of modeling assets. I just think ultimately it's gonna be one of the main ways that you're gonna obtain 3D assets. But I think today the software and the work required is still so much. It's not that easy. A lot of cleanup, a lot of setup. I think there's something that's got to give before this becomes more mainstream in the 3D community. I think it's great. I think the assets look beautiful. Oh, 100%, 100%. I'm just saying it's not there today.
Yeah.
What takes more time, the actual acquisition of the images, the taking the pictures, or the cleanup?
I think just the processing of the data is the most time-consuming aspect of it. It's so you have to take all the images, put them in a. I mean, the thing is, you put them in this software, and then you get to create a point cloud, then you mesh that point cloud, then you clean up in ZBrush or some other sculpting tool, and then you fix it, export it, publish it. The point is, you have to do all these steps, and there's all these, as anybody that has used 3D software, there's all these little nuances. Oh, you have to remember to do this and this and this before you export this and this and this. When you're capturing it, make sure that you do A, B, C, D. You've got a whole list of things. It's just not something that's easy to do or easy to process at this point in time. But the results are stunning if you know what you're doing.
Now, this isn't specifically photogrammetry, but because it's not single camera photogrammetry, and but there's that new Artec Leo, which is by the company Artec. It's like I think it's laser scanning, and they're using a new it's an NVIDIA chip inside for it's like a custom chip. It's like 25 grand, but I think it does a lot for you. You can actually preview the model as you're scanning around it. It's like one little handheld device. It's pretty cool.
So Yazan, you recently completed a project that did involve a lot of laser scanning, correct? And that was worth the time and effort, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, for what we were trying to do. Again, it depends on everything, but I don't know if I can argue, had I gotten a really good artist to do the work, whether it would have been the same or not, or better quality. I don't know. It'd be a good comparison to do at some point, actually.
So photogrammetry definitely going to be here, just not here yet. But maybe it's something that
it will replace. I mean, let's be honest. It will replace most modeling. I just fundamentally think, why would you? If this object is here, I need it in 3D. You just do it. Yeah, get it photogrammetry done and get it. Why would I need somebody to model it? I would. Unfortunately, modeling, I think, as a job will shift to something else. I don't know what that thing is, but I do think photogrammetry is going to take away a good portion of that.
So Google has some technology called Project Tango. Go ahead, Wes.
I'm sorry, Greg. Yeah, I think it depends on like what you're saying there, Yazan. Like I see that point, but I think it depends on really what the usage of the model may be as well. I mean, because I don't know. I think that there will always be a need for modelers and people who can create, proper topology. I mean, think about for animation, definitely.
Well,
real time.
So I agree with a portion of what you're saying. I agree that there's always going to be a need for a modeler to look at assets, especially if it's original content, something that isn't available. I do think that retopology and things. I do think that will actually go away. I do fundamentally believe that proper retopology will either get resolved as the software will solve that problem, or you just will not care about polygons anymore. I don't know which is going to come first, but I fundamentally think that's going to go away. But for original content, yes, I agree with you. Somebody will have to model new content that doesn't exist in the world, whether it's a character or a prop or a new design. I mean, this thing exists, right? If you want something brand new, it doesn't, and somebody has to model that.
Modelers will always be needed in the same way that workers will always be needed in car factories. That they'll always be there, but they just might be babysitting machines rather.
Yeah, you might not need 50 million of them, but you'll need some of them.
Yeah.
So let's break down photogrammetry. Let's not call it photogrammetry. Let's call it acquisition and cleanup. Because if you look at if Google's Project Tango, where I think you're using a depth sensor on a phone to scan, and similar to its hand laser scanner, just get geometry in that way. So whether it's laser scanner, a depth sensor like even like an Xbox type depth sensor with better resolution, or a bunch of photographs from different angles, that's acquisition. And so you're getting that data in somehow, but it's all going through the more laborious, like Yasin said, cleanup phase that takes more time. So Foundry, yes, if you're looking at exploring this, then I think you have to get something in the hands of artists, even if it sucks, to have us plow through it and start to find the best way to make this work. So yeah, if you're looking at this as an option, as another content creation tool, another part of Moto or something like that, yeah, get it in our hands and we'll figure out the best way.
The cleanup process is the dark room, right? Like if you think of old photography, like the cleanup the acquisition process is using the camera, and the cleanup process is the dark room. We don't have dark rooms anymore. We don't need them. And right. The same is true. Same will be true here. We'll have an acquisition process that'll be much more fluid and organic and in the moment. You'll be able to essentially take photos of the world, and the cleanup process will be pretty much automatic, and that'll use AI. I mean, it's not going to happen with a program. It's going to be deep intelligence that's going to work out what different objects are in a scene and figure out how the topology needs to be to be perfect and everything. But I mean, we're not talking about in the next 5 years.
Yeah. So there's definitely, I think, something until we get to that point. Yes. I think there's a lot of people who would be happy to be paid to retopo that saber-tooth skull in the background there, things like that. So yeah, I would right now. There's one in like Autodesk. Actually has some nice stuff you can download for free. Like I think it's 123, or there's a couple other photo point cloud.
I think they retired 123.
They could.
Oh, they retired 123. What's the new one?
It was too valuable.
Pascal, what's the new one?
I don't know what the new one is.
I can find out real quick here.
But I do think there's an opportunity right now. I mean, this is not going to go away now, and there's an opportunity for software makers to make some money streamlining that process, because we're going to need a lot of it. I mean, if we're building a lot of AR, VR stuff, this is gonna be one of those things that could make a lot of sense. I mean, you still need assets in 3D. They don't necessarily all have to be original and new. A lot of them exist in the world, but they have to be done in 3D. I can't wait for the day where you Google search, instead of images and videos, you Google search 3D assets, and they're all there, and you can download stuff. It's gonna happen. It's just not today.
Yeah, I agree with Yazan that's definitely going to be, like we talked about earlier, where you have all these big companies that, Facebook, Microsoft, and what they're. It all goes back to this future innovation, this big wave that everybody's trying to ride as the next big thing, which is going to be 3D everywhere. And I think that, like you said, there'll be a day when that's what we're doing. We're not Googling like photos of stuff. We're Googling full 3D assets and stuff that we can look right there as on a hologram or in our VR worlds while we work and stuff like that. So yeah, that's exciting. I mean, I really think that's going to happen.
But you can't really scan transparent objects, right? Or hollow objects.
Or highly specular objects too.
Yeah, for now. But I think that's because the simple methods we're using. I think as software gets better and starts recognizing that is transparent material, and I'm actually seeing through it and catching light through it, I think things will change. I think they'll add additional sensors. There's this is the decade of adding sensors to everything. I can't imagine the sensors that are in your phone and in your just staying as normal cameras. I think you'll have additional information that will be gathered. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I actually have a medical client that does eye surgery, but they will 3D scan, through your pupil and get a complete 3D model of your lens, and so which is transparent. I mean, so I don't know if it's using a refractive.
Because they're using
index or something.
refraction. Yeah, they
Right.
can calculate from the refraction.
So yeah, that stuff that'll all filter down to us. So yes, that's good. So tell who was that Yazan from the Foundry who mentioned who
Oh, Kevin.
Kevin.
Milagro just said, how do you model something that doesn't, or how do you photograph something that doesn't exist, man? And he's absolutely right. Of course there'll be modelers for that stuff.
Unicorns, yes.
There will be modelers for unicorns and creatures, but they'll be modeling high poly is my point. They'll be doing like something more similar to ZBrush than to Modo, in that nobody's going to be doing spin quads and all that stuff in a couple of decades. I think all of that stuff will be auto retopology and pretty much automatic.
All right. Well, we have been going for over an hour. Should we call this?
I think you just did.
I think I just did. All right. So thanks for joining us, Wes, Pascal, for the first time here, Adam and Ed and Yasin again. So we'll be back. We're doing this once a month. Probably keep up that track unless we see people wanting more. But yeah, thanks a lot. Visit Pixel Fondue, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Read my cat article.
Let Teresa know what you think about her letter.
Everybody write your senators this week and write Teresa a really nice note.
Those are the two most important things to do.
All right. I am signing off. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Bye.